Hello blessed people, welcome or welcome back here. It's Julmarie again for another DIY project. And today I will be showing you how to create a high-waisted short pattern that you can turn into 3 different designs. So without further ado, let's start by drawing 2 lines. Now from your waistline, measure down your hip depth. To make the hemline, mark down your desired length of your shorts. To make the first design, I added 8 inches in my hip circumference to get that oversized look. So make sure to add that ease allowance on your hip measurement and then divide it into 4 and mark that on your hip line. Mark the same on your crotch line and in your waistline. And that is now the front pattern. And to make the back panel, trace the front panel into another paper. The back waist is usually higher than the front to give space for the butt area, so we're going to transfer the waist measurement to the mark that we just made. And now all we need to do is to add a seam allowance. On my waistline, I am adding 1.5 inch of seam allowance since I am using 1 inch size of elastic. Now let's start sewing. Place the fabric right sides together and sew the inseam and overlap. But if you don't have a serger, you can use the zigzag stitch of your machine. I'm running a couple of stitches on my elastic since it is not very thick, just to prevent it from folding after wash, but no need to do this if your elastic is thick enough. Now find the center of the tie and sew it to the center front of the waistband. And our design number 1 is done. Moving on to our next style, trace again the basic pattern that we made into another paper. On this design, I wanted to have a little angled curve on the hemline, so I added a 1/2 inch of the length, and then I took out 1.5 inch of the length of the side only and extended out the hemline about 1.5 inch. Now on the waistline, mark 1/4 of your waist measurement. Then mark the half of that. Now measure the ease allowance and transfer that to the midpoint of your waistline, and this is going to be our pleat. On the back panel, do the same on the hemline to create the curve but without extending the side. On the waistline, mark down 1/4 of your waist measurement plus 2 inches for the dart. Now mark 1/8 of your waist measurement, then mark 1 inch for our first dart. Then give 1 inch of space for the next dart. Now let's add side pockets. Mark down 1 inch, then from that point, measure 6.5 inches down. And our design number 2 is done. We're just gonna add 1 inch of seam allowance for the hem and 1/2 inch for the rest of the seam. Don't forget to make notches on your fabric for the darts, the pleats, and the pockets. Now it's time to cut the fabric. Now we're going to insert the zipper on the back panel, so mark where your zipper needs to stop, and from that mark, close the seam all the way down. After attaching the pocket, overlock the side seam before top stitching the pocket to the seam. For the waistband, cut a fabric that is your waist circumference long, adding 1.5 inch seam allowance on each end by 4 inches wide, and fuse it with a lightweight interfacing. Then cut 6 pieces of fabric that is 2 by 3 inches for the belt loop and fold it like this, and we're going to sew both sides. Now I'm going to pin the waistband as well as the belt loop, 2 pieces each in the front, side, and the back. Now we're going to stitch in the ditch. Make sure that the seams of the waist is in upward position, then start sewing in between the seams on the front side of the waist while securing the other side of the waistband. And here you go, our design number 2 is ready to go. And finally, we're set for our last design. So once again, trace the basic pattern and take out 1 inch on each side of the panel. To make the pleat on the front panel, we're going to do exactly the same on how we made it on our design number 2. Also, on the back panel, do the same on how we did on our previous design, but instead of having 2 darts, we're going down to 1 dart. And that's it. Let's now cut the fabric. I already have a video on how to attach the zip fly on the pant, so I will just leave that link on the screen as well as in the description box below so you can check that out. Now use the pocket pattern that we have and assemble it the same way as we did on our last design. And also cut the waistband like how we did on the floral short, though this time make it 2 inches wide and sew it on the pant the same exact way.